Welcome to Escapism Pinball, and in today's video I'm going to show you what I do when I strip one of these machines. This is a Corvette, and when you open it up first you can pull out the playfield to that point where you can reach at the back. And then this is what it looks like before I start stripping. The first thing you do is you lift up the playfield to undo all the plugs at the bottom. You need to get all of them, otherwise you can't lift out all the ramps and lamps and things. There's an example of what the shooter tips typically look like. This is just a before photo. There's my little long socket that I use to undo those, and that's the first wireform ramp that comes off. And everything will end up on the table here. The next thing to come off is this motor hood, because underneath there's some rubber bands that I can't get to otherwise. To get to that you need to remove this plastic. Those are the screws. This is the plastic with the screws undone. And you can see the screws at the bottom of this wireform. That's them there. This is a photograph of them removed. And now I can start thinking about lifting out this wireform. This wireform is connected to the thumper or the slingshot assembly by that little nut there. I just take a photograph of it just for completeness sake, to show that there's a washer underneath. And that photograph is to show you that there's a little wireform that goes through the exhaust plastic there. So that's that ramp off. Now I need to get I need to get everything off, but this is the little screws that I use to tighten the ramps down to the playfield. That's the mechanism I'm aiming to get off, but to get that off I need to undo the screws on that side of it and on the other side of it. And those are them. There's this little plastic cover on the ramp coming from the right hand side. It's fastened with those screws, and then the ramp itself is fastened to, the back apron, you could say, with screws that look like that. And those are self-tapping. I don't know if that's quite the right screw. What I'm trying to show here is that ramp assembly thing with the Allen key stuck in it, which you need to undo it. Then you can pull that diverter out, and once you pull the diverter out you can pull the plastic ramp off. That little bottom part comes off with those screws. Then you're exposing these screws, and when you're undoing them, then you can lift up the bottom part of the, well, there's two different ones. I'll try and get the original ones. Once you get that off, you can get the raceway lifted off on the front end. There's it loose. There's it lifted, and on the back end of it you need to undo that little cover, and that'll expose, well, that'll loosen the raceway. At the back of the raceway there are these little plugs that you also need to undo. I didn't undo everything from the start, but also you have to unplug some cables from some boards. These are the motor controllers, I suspect. And once that's off, then you have access to the plastic ramps. To get that plastic ramp off, unfortunately that wire goes through a hole that's obscured underneath this plastic, and that plastic comes off with two little screws that go right through the bumper head, and they're a little bit different to the normal bumper screws. There's another connector I need to undo from the bottom, and it goes through that hole right to the right hand side of the bumper. And once you figure out that the ones you're undoing are further down the playfield, then you can get the ramp off, add it to your collection, and then that will expose the last little wire that is connected to a little gate. Okay, this metal bracket on the side needs to be removed with those screws. There it is on my desk, on my bench. That little wire spring connecting to the gate opener, you have to undo that first, and then you need to undo this screw that holds the final part of this ramp. Well, not to mention those little screws that connect to a gate to the left of the ramp. Once you get that undone, you can lift up the ramp and have a look at where the wire harnesses are going through. There's another board that it's connected to there, and there's another little connector there that you need to undo. But once they're undone, then the whole motor shaker unit can be extracted from the playfield, which will give you access to the side of it. That's what it looks like when it's out of the playfield. So there we have the motor shaker unit. I need to get this top thing off because I want to get into it to change those rubbers. They've never been done in the history of this machine, so I reckon this will be a virgin change for them. I suppose if you have a long nose pliers or a forceps or something, you can change them without going through all this effort, but seeing that I'm going to strip the machine in any case to clean it, you may as well go through the whole thing properly and get it done nicely. In the end, you save time by doing this instead of standing around swearing for half a day. This ramp will now come off. We need to undo some screws first. There's 3 of them in picture there. It's at the bottom of the ramp. There they are, just to remind me how to put them back together, especially the top one. There's the ramp coming out. Of course, there's a little connector that goes with it because there's the ramp switch and everything. And there they are back on my bench. These little screws hold down the exhaust cover. The exhaust cover comes off, and I'm almost ready to start cleaning. But there's a captive flipper rubber there underneath this little right-hand ramp, and to get the right-hand ramp off, same thing, you undo those little screws and the screws on the side there that holds it to the side rail, and that little nut there that connects a gate to it. That's between that ramp and the right-hand ramp. Once that's lifted off, then you can get rid of this flipper rubber and change it. That's just a picture to remind me that the cable goes behind those 2 little bulbs, and where they are, and there's the connector coming out. Sometimes you find that you've forgotten in which hole the connector has to go through, so this little plastic is the last to go. It gives you access to those bulbs over there. These nuts and screws give you access to that plastic there, and when that comes off, it gives you access to more bulbs. There's a wire coming through that connects the start lights, and it's easy just to disconnect the start lights at the top, because at the bottom it's cable tied to a harness. There's a little nut that holds the bottom plastic or the right hand plastic. There's the right hand plastic, gives you now access to the bulbs and the rubber. For this one I had to hold on to the post itself, because when you unscrewing that nut from the top, the whole post started unscrewing. So there's a little number 8 spanner that I've ground up and down to fit in there. These are the top lanes. They've each got a lamp underneath, plus those rubbers need to be changed, so they're coming out. And sometimes there's a T-nut under the one and a wood screw under the other. So those photos are just to show me what goes where. That's the little gate that is connected to the last set, the right hand set. These are the screws holding the bumper caps, and the bumper caps need to come off because you need to check those bulbs. The return lanes are undone by doing these screws, and on the right hand side you'll see a screw that just didn't want to come out. There's too much Loctite in the bottom of the T-nut there, and I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to try to undo that, I'm going to break the screw. So having one screw in there still gives me access to all the parts and lamps I need to clean. Here's the top part of the playfield now, completely stripped, and just showing you some of the dirt that collects under these mechanisms. And it's not the dirt that your customer will see, but it's the dirt that will be there. So once you've once I've done this, then I can clean the thing, and that's the playfield stripped. It's a whole morning's worth of stripping and swearing. There's the playfield stripped, and there's all the parts that I took off the playfield. Thank you for watching.